Hey guys, SGT here. I'm thrilled to have back on the line the CEO of Miles Franklin, Andy Schectman. Andy, welcome back.
Thanks, Sean. It's always a pleasure.
What are you seeing on the ground right now? Are you seeing a lot of demand for physical silver, or are you seeing more demand for gold?
We're seeing a tremendous demand for silver. In fact, I've just read that silver eagles are outselling gold eagles and buffaloes 65 to 1. And I think that's relatively accurate. We are, I would say, doing at least 3 or 4 times as much business in silver than in gold. So, yeah, I think the demand is certainly strong for silver, despite of the drive-by shooting we saw in May.
You speak with a lot of folks that are in the know. What is your take on this new Pan-Asia Gold Exchange? John Embry, Andrew Maguire, some of the brightest minds out there think that it spells doom for the paper shorts. What's your take?
I think it probably does. I mean, the interesting thing about the Pan-Asia Gold Exchange, the way that I understand it, is that it's going to be issued directly through a bank. I believe it's called the Agricultural Bank of China. And they have 320 million clients, I believe, or customers that are now directly plugged into that platform. And the numbers that Embry was talking about, I believe, was that for Andrew Maguire, that if just 1% of those customers bought just one single 10-ounce contract, whether it be gold or silver, that would require new physical demand of somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,000 tons. I mean, that's enormous. That's absolutely enormous. And the fact that it's issued through a bank rather than through a brokerage account just makes it that much more accessible to 320 million eager Chinese. So I think it definitely will be a game changer.
Yeah, it is incredible numbers. I mean, the population of the United States is around, 310 million people, and you're talking about 320 million customers that are interested in gold and silver. In fact, that live in a culture that, supports the idea of buying physical silver and physical gold and has for, centuries.
Certainly, and especially when you talk about silver. The Chinese, just 4 years ago, were net exporters of silver, and over the last 2 years, they're not exporting anything anymore. They're large importers. In fact, in 2010, they imported 300% more silver than they did in 2009, and that trend is expected to continue. Of course, you throw into the mix India, which increased their silver imports by 6-fold last year, and their consumption is expected to rise as well. So that, according to the Bombay Bullion Association, I was just reading that this morning, that they're expecting another 50% increase over last year. So I think when you take a closer look at it, silver has been manipulated much more than gold. Certainly, that's true. But the demand for the physical product has never been stronger.
We're seeing a silver to gold ratio of 40 to 1. What do you think the silver to gold ratio will look like here in the future?
Well, I think that you can't have numbers that have been in existence for 5,000 years, that being a 16 to 1 ratio, and have it be that far askew before eventually comes back into focus. Before it's all said and done, I wouldn't be surprised to see it in the single digits, 10 to 1, 9 to 1, 8 to 1. There's just not enough physical silver, and the demand for silver, I believe, as the price of gold really takes off, and it looks like it will. I think the demand for relatively inexpensive silver will only get stronger. And when you talk about the fact that there's such an overhang of demand and so little supply available for physical delivery, to me, it's just a powder keg waiting to explode.
Yeah, and speaking of powder kegs, let's segue over to what's happening in Europe. Italy looks like it might be the next nation to fall. What is your take on what we're seeing happen in the European Union right now, Andy?
Well, I think you need to take a look at what the European central banks are doing. They're now net buyers of gold, and 2011 marks the first time since the euro was hatched that they are net buyers of gold. Yeah, you move over to Switzerland. The Swiss Parliament is expected later this year to discuss the creation of a gold franc that will parallel their official Swiss franc currency. The bottom line is, I think that the big money in Europe is very, very, very nervous of what's happening to the euro. They're looking to protect themselves. And so there's no question to me that gold is now becoming center stage. Perhaps you could argue the preeminent world reserve currency. I think the problems that are happening in Europe are opening the eyes to a lot of very, very wealthy players that they need to protect themselves. And, they call gold a safe haven currency or a safe haven vehicle, but, in reality, it's a safe haven because all of the currencies the world over are losing value and losing desirability, and I think it is really getting noticed by the big money in Europe.
Right, and ironically, Ron Paul put Ben Bernanke on the spot last week, and Bernanke really put himself in a corner where he had to either admit gold is money, or he said gold isn't money, and he said that central banks hoard gold as part of tradition. And
I saw that.
Yeah, people are seeing right through that.
He also said that he also told the Congress that the central bank is prepared to take additional action if the economy appears to be in danger of stalling. He said in so many times in so many different ways that he would not tolerate anything that hinted of deflation or an economic slowdown. Of course, Bernanke was a professor at Princeton, and his class that he taught was on the Great Depression. He understands that a country with as much debt as we have and losing its manufacturing base and its employment base can ill afford a slowdown. So, as Richard Russell has said for so long, his only choice is to inflate or default, one or the other. Inflate or die is the way he calls it.
Right, and Mark Faber has called Ben Bernanke a madman, which I think is probably apropos. I think what you've just described, though, is Bernanke basically using coded language to say that QE3 may be right around the corner.
I think it is. They really have no choice but to continue to print money, and whether it be through QE3 or something more nefarious, hidden, they have very little choice. So I think that there's no choice but to continue roaring with the printing presses.
Now, before we let you go, I'd love to get your take on the problems that we're seeing in our own country here. As our representatives, quote-unquote representatives, meet and try to come to an agreement with Obama over this debt ceiling, Peter Schiff has made the point that there is plenty of incoming money to pay our bond obligations. So there really is no reason at this point for this government to default. We can meet those obligations, but the threat of default is being used against the American people to raise the debt ceiling, another $2, $3, $4, $5 trillion. What is your take on what's happening right now with our government on this debt ceiling issue?
What really bothers me more than anything is that this is a government that keeps getting pushed to the brink by threatening to withhold Social Security payments and by raiding pension funds and doing all of these things. To me, it really signals just how precarious of a position we're in. But so much of the information that we get is skewed. The Bureau of Labor Statistics ought to remove the L from their BLS name and just be called the BS, because when you take a look at the numbers that they're putting out right now, they say the official CPI is 3.6%, when John Williams of Shadow Stats will tell you it's over 10%. They tell us that employment is officially, according to the U3 numbers, listed at just over 9%, when in reality it's closer to 23% and heading higher. You got a residential real estate market which is off 5% year on year. New home sales are softening, and existing sales really aren't going anywhere. I'm betting that we'll see another 10 to 20% decrease this year and next. In fact, I've been renting for the last 3 years. I believe so strongly in that. And I think that in the end, our spending and our debt is unsustainable and will lead to, I think, the end of the dollar as the world reserve currency. There is just no way that you can pay off a $14 trillion debt with an economy that is in such bad shape as ours is, and a labor force that seems to be deteriorating, and a manufacturing base that has disappeared. When we talk about just how big those numbers are, people forget that 1 trillion seconds ago was 31,688 years ago. Mm-hmm. The numbers are just too darn big, Sean, in my opinion, to ever be paid off, and that is exactly why it's QE to infinity or it's default. It's one or the other. And so, it's a scary time right now. It's certainly a scary time, and I think really it's never been more important to protect ourselves with gold and silver. I don't care how high gold is, it'll be higher. I don't care how high silver is, it'll be higher. And, the one thing that I've learned is that things always take longer to develop, and market moves are always higher or larger, both up and down, than we expect. I think bottom line, Sean, is to, focus on the big picture and forget about the short-term movements in the market. That's just noise and has a way of confusing us and trying to bump us off the bull. The bull wants to take as few of us for the ride as possible. And, really, what they've done with great success, the cartel, is to throw as many of us overboard as possible. And when no more can be discarded, the price of gold and silver rises. This has been the way it has been for the past decade. The bottom line with all of this is the supplies of physical gold and silver are disappearing. And the elitists like J.P. Morgan and Goldman Sachs are trying to chase the speculators out of the market by depressing the prices, and they've done a darn good job of it. Yet it continues to march higher by over 20% per year. So I think you need to focus on the big picture, tune out the noise, and realize that the big drive-by shootings, the big drops in gold and silver over the last decade, every single one has proven to be a subsidy or a good entry point. With silver, we're on clear approach to make another run at 50, and with gold right now at all-time highs, there's really nothing above it to hold it back. The next target on the point and figure chart is 1745 or 1750 in that range. So, again, I think the one lesson that I've learned in 2 decades in this industry, without question, is that bull markets go higher than anyone ever thinks possible, and bear markets fall further than anyone ever thinks possible. So hold on tight. It's going to be a bumpy ride, but, there's, as far as I'm concerned, it's baked into the cake. The U.S. dollar is toast, and you need to prepare.
Yeah, and you make the point that this bull is trying to shake people off, but as the great Jim Sinclair has noted time and again, it's the rare person who can be right and sit tight. And we all know what the story is. The trick is to dollar cost average, keep acquiring physical metals, and just sit tight, because there are absolutely no reasons at this point to start selling or to stop buying. So, Andy, not really sure. I've never really fully understood how your business works in terms of the margins, because the margins are tight. I mean, you make between 2 to 6% on a sale, depending on maybe less than that. Let's talk a little bit about that, and let's talk about how to get people in touch with you.
First of all, we did $175 million in business last year. If we sell anything over 2.5%, it's a rarity, and that would be on high-grade numismatics that are scarce and hard to come by. We certainly would love to earn your viewers' business, and we do publish a daily newsletter. You can check us out and sign up for our free daily newsletter at www.milesfranklin.com. Check us out and see what we're all about. We do maintain the A+ rating on the Better Business Bureau's webpage. You can find a link to that on our webpage as well. We'd also like to earn your viewers' business. And anything you buy over $1,000, we will throw in a free Silver Eagle. And we certainly love the opportunity to earn your viewers' business.
That's very kind, Andy. What's the phone number people would call, and who do they ask for?
1-800-255-1129. That'll ring directly to me. I own the company. I'll take the time to personally speak with all of your viewers, and we are not short-sighted either, Sean. We don't have a minimum order. All business is appreciated, and whether you want to buy $500 worth or $500,000 worth, we'll certainly be here to earn your business.
Well, we appreciate you taking the time to talk with us. Andy Schectman, CEO of Miles Franklin. Till we talk again, have a good day, sir.
Thanks, Sean. You too, buddy.
All right. See you soon.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Guys, thanks for tuning in, and thanks for all your support. Good night.